thought I might go over what this chapter's about and how you can approach it, and then how and what to expect from the assignments. You have a lot of background provided by the textbook and by the presentation online. I thought maybe my take on some of this would be somewhat of a guide for you. So let's start off with Lesson 1, and we're looking at the objectives for this lesson. And there are about 8 or 9 of them there, I guess. Maybe 10. So, first of all, it asks and talks about the recognition of the primary goal of a firm. And most of you are going to say, well, it's to make money, right? And that's true. It is to make money, but the ultimate goal is to maximize stockholders' wealth or shareholders' wealth if you're working within a corporation, which is what we're doing. There's a bit of a debate going on and has been a continual debate or a back and forth. It's between, is the goal to only maximize profit for the shareholders, or is the goal to maximize the benefit for all stakeholders? And that kind of goes back and forth. More and more companies are looking at maximizing the benefit for all stakeholders, and this is called corporate social responsibility. And I'll let you check that out a little bit further. I just wanted to mention it. There's an argument that says, well, if you do maximize shareholder wealth, then you automatically will have a positive effect on all of the stakeholders. And there's an argument against that, obviously. So that's just something to put in the back of your head. The next key here is describing the key activities of a financial manager. Book does a really good job of that, I believe. It looks at and talks about the positions involved, but if you really look at finance is throughout any business. Anybody who has a knowledge of finance is very beneficial, very useful to a business. So the more that you can find out about finance and how it works and the effects of the decisions you make in a financial state of mind, if you want to put that in quotes, it's very important to a company. So studying finance is really important for your success in business. Some of the roles that you'll find as a financial management would be being a chief financial officer, and they oversee the financial planning, they oversee the strategic planning, and the control of cash flow. And under those are the treasurer, the controller, and the controller is looking at more of the accounting side of it, where the treasurer is looking at cash management and financial planning. But the finance part, the finance role, goes all the way down, not down, but already all the way to the level of entry positions. So kind of really concentrate on that. We have an activity that's going to have you explore financial careers later on. Take advantage of that. I think that research will help you tremendously in understanding why you have to study finance and why it's so important. It will make you a great asset to a company. There are 5 things, and this is not mentioned on the objectives, but I think these are really important for you. If you look in the book on page 4, it starts 5 principles that form the foundations of finance, and these are absolutely must-knows. One is the cash flow is what matters. And as you went through accounting, we did profit, obviously. But then we kind of followed up with a statement of cash flows. And we found out that even though profit may be positive, we may be very short on cash because of the way we handle the cash flow. So cash flow in finance is important. You can be cash poor and land rich and starve to death. if you really think about that meaning. The next principle is money has a time value. So money that I hold in my hand today cannot be compared to promised money in the future. There is a penalty, if you wish. No better way of saying that. If I offer you $100 in a year, which would you rather have, the $100 today or the $100 in a year? The $100 in a year is going to be worth less than what it is today. And that's what they talk about, the time value of money. Then there's risk requires reward. And as we go through some of the calculations and the problems we're going to be doing in this course, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. And we're going to use some very interesting tools to calculate what the risk is. There's going to be using, it's called CAPM, is one way of measuring risk. We're going to look at other areas that will say what is the discount rate, how much risk is that, discount rate, interest rate. Basically what you're saying is the more the risk, the higher the interest, or the interest that I receive has to be. So we'll try to balance those as you go through. And it's a fascinating field in and of itself. Then we have market prices are generally right, which says, and it's going to talk about, what we talk about down here is the efficient market hypothesis. And that's saying that the market has all the information that it needs at all times, and that the price of the investment or stock is already at its base price or its benchmark price. We're going to have another assignment about efficient markets. And then the final one is the conflict of interest that is caused by the agency theory. And the agency theory, we're also going to have an assignment on it. So those 5 base pillars of finance are what the course will introduce to you. So keep those in mind. That goes from page 4 to page 7. If you take further or more advanced finance courses, you're going to need to know those things. So file those away in an important area so that you can bring those up as needed. Then you need, the next thing was to justify the importance of finance to business careers. Finance is really the language of business. If you are not keeping cash flow going, if you're not investing for the future, if you're not handling the resources you have at this moment to the fullest of their potential, the business will fail. And that is just how important finance is to business and to business careers. If you understand finance, as I've said a couple of times now, you are an asset to the business. And we look at 4 forms of business organizations and key forms, sorry. You're probably fairly tired of these right now. You have sole proprietorship, you've got partnerships, and you have corporations. And you will look at the differences, the advantages, and the disadvantages of those. We then look at ethical situations in finance, and these can be pretty hefty. A case in point, Enron. That's been, 2001, and it's still talked about as the ethical embarrassment of business since the beginning of this century. Enron really was a very complex Ponzi scheme, and it affected millions of people. It affected the state of California. It even, in some instances, has been implicated in deaths of the general population of people who weren't even invested in Enron. So, and it was all unethical behavior in their finance department. If you get a chance, you really need to check that one out, because it's a a textbook example of what not to do ethically in a company. Other things in the last year, we've had Toyota has had finance ethical issues. You've got VW with the emissions control issue. Now, while that wasn't a an ethical decision, in a way it was driven by that because they were looking at the bottom line. GM, same thing. You're looking at switches driven by finance questions or financial implications. So there are many, many ethical situations that come up that involve the finance of the company. So stay on top of those. Then we have the agency theory, which is when one person can make a decision, is given the right to make the decision for another person, and somewhere in the middle there, the decision that's being made conflicts with the agent's best interests, and there's a dilemma that gets posed there. We will do an activity about that one also. So finally, and then we look at the relationship between the agency theory and the firm, and that's always being looked at because you've got a board of directors, you have shareholders, you have managers, you have CEOs, you have officers of the company, that there's always a conflict, or in theory there's a conflict between the best interests of the agent and the best interest of the shareholders. And then we're going to look at the implications of an efficient markets hypothesis. What are they talking about here? In essence, what they're saying is there's no such thing as an underpriced stock, basically. There's no such thing as an overpriced stock, because the market has all the information that it needs, and the market will adjust the price in accordance. A good example of this would be CAPM. When they were looking at CAPM, when CAPM was just coming out, it was showing a lot of tendencies in the market that small cap industries, small value cap industries were traditionally returning more on the stock market than large cap growth industries. And it was proven with 81 years of research, and that CAPM actually predicted and helped predict this. So what happened was, when this came out, suddenly everybody took that theory and ran with it, and everybody was investing in small cap value stocks. And they started noticing something, that suddenly the CAPM wasn't predicting as well as it used to. And that was because of simply the market taking notice and adjusting the stocks, because everybody was investing in small cap value stocks, which drove the price up, right? Which then lowered the risk. Okay, so the risk wasn't quite as high anymore with the caps, small caps, according to the theory, and that changed. So now when they went to use CAPM to forecast the risk that you may have on stocks, it wasn't turning out the way they wanted it to. And I think they've traced it back to the market reacted and changed the predictability of what was happening in the market. So, interesting. We're going to do 3 activities in this. And again, that last little bit, what is a theory? Okay, it's not... So, we're going to go down, and we've got 3 assignments. The first one here is, we're going to explore financial careers. And I actually went out and did this because I found it, if you have to do it, I'm going to do it, right? So I wanted to see what your experience was going to be. If you do go to monsters.com or any other financial site, or any other, employment site, and type in financial, or finance. It's going to bring up a long list of finance. What it's also going to bring up, especially on Monster, was sort of a synopsis or a summary of finance and what you could expect if you got into or you decided to become a financial, to seek finance as a career. So I want you to go check that out. I don't care which one you use. But then when you've completed it, reading about it, identify, okay, and describe key activities and responsibilities of somebody in each selected job. You're going to pick out 3 of them. And they kind of give you some options here. And you pick any ones that you want, and then discuss how each job impacts the firm in a positive way. Now remember, you're looking at it from a finance standpoint. So how does the finance job, affect the firm? That's what we're looking for. This needs to be in 250 words. If you are citing and using information, make sure that if it's a quote, you've got it marked properly using APA, and you will find that information in student resources. If you don't know what that is, or you just space out, email me or message me, and I'll be glad to help you figure that one out. Then we look at one more. We have 2 more. Let's go down and we look at efficient markets, and efficient markets is a fairly straightforward. It kind of reflects what I was talking about. Somebody's father asked the opinion of a good buy. He heard that it was undervalued, and you need to reply about your beliefs and knowledges of market efficiency. Now, you may have to do some research on that. And I would encourage you to go out and read about market efficiencies. Okay? Again, you're going to write up a 250-word paper. Please use APA for citation. And just relax and write out your thoughts. There's no right or wrong in this. Okay? This is your opinion and what you found. Now, you need to back it up with what you find in your research. One more area that we're going to look at is the agency. And that's going to look like, maybe, if I can get there, same thing. We're going to look, it gives you a scenario. Now this one may be a little harder to wrap around. Because you have a conflict of interest. The scenario has a conflict of interest in their aversion to risk versus what the shareholders' aversion to risk is. Not to mention you have the CEO in the middle of that. So you need to look at what it means to be a very conservative division manager. What does very conservative mean? And why do you want to build up a cash cushion? What are the advantages of doing this? You may have to do a little bit of history back in how often maybe that there's a down cycle in the business cycle, and where the market is standing from that aspect, or do a comparison between aggressive investing versus a more conservative, and find out which really gives the best return. And then justify that and send it to your CEO explaining why you are investing the way you're investing. And that should take you back to the end of the lesson. Let's see if I've covered everything in here. This took a bit longer than I wanted it to. I'll have to learn to speed it up a little bit. And then you have quiz 1. And quiz 1 is 10 questions. You have 3 tries. The try that is the best score will be selected and will be recorded in the grade book. So, I hope you have enjoyed, or this has helped just a tad. I'll do this for each chapter. When we get into chapters where we're doing actual calculations, there will be a walkthrough of the assignments. So I will give an overview of the objectives, and then I will give an overview of each one of the assignments so that you know how to proceed with the assignments. So never fear, we're going to have fun with this. Thank you. Talk to you next week.